All right, I think I'll kick things off now. We've got a pretty good group. Just welcome everyone again to the What's New webinar. So this is the winter release session. We're going to run through some of the key features and capabilities for winter. My name's Stephen Tram. I will be hosting the session today along with Mike Everett from the Solution Consulting team, who will be showing off some of the features that we're diving into today. On the panel as well, we've got some people from the solutions and product team. So they're responsible for most of the features that we're running through today. And we've got Wayne, Pamela, Erin, and Smokey. So before I get started running through the agenda, if you've got any questions at all when we're going through the sessions about particular features or anything, feel free to pop it into the chat, and we've got the Q&A that's set up as well. At the end of the session, there's a bit of time to ask any other questions that you might have as well. All right, so let's dive into it. On the agenda for today, we have the Workplace Dynamics updates as the key highlights. So we recently launched Workplace Dynamics a few releases ago. We have quite a few exciting updates for the winter release. So I'm going to be covering that off first. And then Mike will show us a demo of some of the employee insights that you're able to gain from that. Then we're going to cover a lot of the platform enhancements that we've got. So as part of winter release, there's a bunch of usability enhancements, including a guidebook refresh. And then we'll cover our new features and a few standalone bundles that we are releasing as part of winter. And then we'll just wrap it up with any other questions that you've got. Alrighty, so before I get into Workplace Dynamics, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context around why it's so important to get a deeper understanding of collaboration that's actually happening across your organization. Over the last few years, there's been an insane amount of change that's happened, and businesses, employees, and individuals have had to adapt to so much in terms of how we work, the way that we work, the way that we communicate together. With the shift to hybrid and remote work, we went to complete remote work overnight, and a lot of organizations are working hybrid, remote, and distributed work permanently. So how we're communicating, how we're collaborating has changed completely. And with that, we've seen an influx of new collaboration tools that have become a staple in our day-to-day work. Zoom calls, G Suite, Slack, something that we're using day-to-day, and it's an important part of work and how we collaborate with our peers. And lastly, the amount of change that's happened has had a tremendous impact on employees. And that's shifted the expectations that they have on their employers. And they're looking for more support from their leaders and better understanding. And that becomes more and more difficult when a lot of your face-to-face interactions just done on screen and through Zoom. So the traditional approach of gathering feedback and insights from employees and from managers isn't enough anymore. Surveys are foundational, but they can be very infrequent, and they're a lagging indicator. So you end up being reactive rather than being proactive. And with performance management, these tools are definitely critical, but they're also infrequent and not very scalable. With the new ways of working and the new ways of collaborating that we're doing, you need deeper insight into how work is actually getting done across the business and how individuals are communicating across teams. And this helps to gain more continuous feedback, more contextual insights that you can really act on straight away. With Workplace Dynamics, you're able to get those insights, and it's from a combination of passive and active feedback. So passive feedback in the form of insights from the digital tools that we're now using every day, G Suite, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and then active feedback in the form of smart surveys. So targeted questions based on your collaboration circle. So the people that you're collaborating closest with amongst your entire organization. From that combination of the passive and active feedback, you're getting insights to people across your entire organization. HR and people leaders get that better understanding of how teams are working together and surface any risks around turnover and burnout. For employees, you're getting your own personal dashboard with insights into your own burnout risk. So you're able to address that before it becomes a big issue. You understand your closest collaborators and you're getting peer feedback to help you improve and grow within your work. So with that deeper understanding of collaboration, you're able to unlock productivity, improve that collaboration across the business, and really enhance that workforce effectiveness. We're surfacing hidden organizational risks. Without that day-to-day interaction, it can be difficult to understand how your employees are actually doing, but being able to surface burnout risk early, especially when we're working remote and you're working longer hours, it's easier to surface those risks as well as identify any challenges around turnover. And lastly, these insights are getting into the hands of everyone across the business. So your HR leaders, your executive teams, your people leaders, as well as down to the individual employee level. So you're really helping to optimize that collaboration and empowering individuals to really thrive within the workplace. So with the winter release, we've got quite a few big updates to Workplace Dynamics. The first one is we've got a new collaboration circle visual. So this lets you easily see your closest collaborators, identifying the strong relationships that you have across the business, as well as highlighting some of the relationships that you could be improving on. So you can see on the right-hand side, there's the visual, and it really helps to understand who you should be engaging with and working with, where you can build stronger relationships with. Secondly, we're providing more flexibility with the smart surveys. So you're able to add questions, edit questions, personalized survey questions, and the templates to really suit your specific needs. And lastly, we have a bunch of new guidebooks that are coming out. So these guidebooks are dashboards specific to HR teams, executives, and people leaders, providing them with more guidance and insights into their respective teams and their respective areas. Now I'll pass it over to Mike. He's going to show us the employee dashboards and some of the insights that you can get from there.
Thank you, Stephen. Let me just share my screen. Right. So I thought I'd take an interesting approach to my demo for this first part. And that is, I thought I'd show you Visier's own usage of Workplace Dynamics. Now, we have only very recently launched this. So, I mean, we've been doing some trials over the last couple of months, but we've relaunched it with the new content, the new capabilities. We've also been doing some work with an IO psychologist to help refine some of the questions, so that the questions are now really, they kind of, within the survey, they kind of have two parts. Now, I don't have the ability to show you the survey right now, but really the two parts of the survey are, one of them is around kind of skills-based peer reviews. And the reason they're smart surveys is because they ask you questions about the people that you're collaborating with. So they're not kind of randomly picking people from the organization and hoping that you've had some contact with them. They're specifically around the people that you are, emailing, meeting with, Zoom, Teams, etc. And it asks you about, how are they, for example, I think one of the questions I had this week was, who would I go to if I wanted to be connected with someone else within the business? So it helps you identify, who are central to the organization, who are the most influential, etc. And the other side of the survey questions really are around well-being and burnout. So there are questions about, how are you feeling? What's your work-life balance like? Do you have the tools available for you to do your job properly? And all of that survey information. I mean, I think this week I completed mine in about 3 minutes. Now, I'm going to go into just one of the new guidebooks around Workplace Dynamics. I'm kind of spoiling the surprise a little bit because one of the items that's coming later in the session is about the fact that we have a new guidebook design with some lovely new images and a nice flow through to get to the topics within those guidebooks. But so you're seeing it in advance here. But you can see here within Workplace Dynamics, we've got a lot of content. There's content that welcomes you, to help you understand what it is, what it's about, helping you unlock productivity, reveal organizational risks around burnout and well-being, etc. I mean, the one I'm going to dip into is the personal insights. So if you remember, this is about me. This is my personal insights for this week. Now, the data is a little bit sketchy because, as I said, we've only recently relaunched this week. But if I scroll down, you can immediately see who are my top collaborators. So who have I been spending most time collaborating with? And that is across all of the platforms that we're measuring, which includes email, Slack, Zoom, plus also it covers all of the kind of Microsoft tools like Outlook and Teams, etc. And then as I scroll down, it takes a look at my digital day. Now my digital day is a bit up and down. You can actually see when I went on a holiday and my digital day didn't exist. And you can also see when I was in Vancouver for our company kickoff event. But then also we've got this new visualization around collaboration circles. So this is a way to start to understand, you know, who I'm collaborating with, and you know who I could maybe collaborate with more. Yes, Stephen Tram's on the list, thankfully, because obviously we do try and prepare a little bit for this. So yeah, I mean, that's all I wanted to really show you, just a little bit of a teaser. And clearly, you know, we can go into this in more detail with each of you if you have you know, more questions and want to see it in a bit more detail at a later date. So that's all for now. I'll hand back over to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, so the next updates that we've got is what Mike actually just shared around the guidebook. So I'll run through platform enhancements. The first one is the guidebook refresh. You just saw it, and I'm sure you've seen it if you've already logged in. But we have a new updated look and feel of our guidebooks. You're able to customize the colors to match your own company branding. And you're able to customize the cover images as well. So whilst this is a fairly small feature, I think it's really significant. I love the look and the modern feel of it. And I think it looks so much better than the previous guidebook. So something I'm really excited to see in Visier people. The next one I wanted to highlight is the metric picker. So we've updated this, making it a lot easier to select the metrics that you need when you're building your visual. So we've moved from a 3-panel to a 2-panel design, making it a lot quicker and easier to find the metrics that you need, and as well as to access the descriptions and be able to adjust those metrics really quickly. So when you're building out your visuals, just making it a lot easier and seamless for you. Now, we have a lot of other usability enhancements as part of Windsor. I'll cover them really quickly, but I really want to pass it over to Mike to give us a proper demo so you can see it in reality. So first one is we've got an enhanced Visier People mobile experience. So now you're able to access Visier People on all mobile web browsers. It's a new responsive design, so it doesn't matter if you're on Android or Apple or the size of your phone screen, you're able to access it from any web browser. Just to note, if you're on iOS, the app has been deprecated and you can just access this from any mobile web browser from now. We've also updated our icons, so you might have seen that already, just to make it a little bit more intuitive. We've enhanced the employee ID search, so you're able to search for individual employees using their employee ID. we've got the pipeline flow visualization within Explore now. So if you're looking to create a pipeline flow visualization, a lot easier to get to. And lastly, metric lineage tool, we've made some enhancements there. So this is helping to provide more context into the metric calculations where you're able to see a list of sources used for the metric calculation. So these are the usability enhancements that were part of Winter. I'll pass it back to Mike to show us the demo.
Thank you, Stephen. Oh, I nearly hit the leave button there by accident. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, right. So yeah, let me cover a few of those off. I'm actually back in my demo environment now, so I don't need to be careful exactly what I show anymore. So yeah, the new guidebook design. I mean, we obviously the new imagery only came out last week, but I've already seen a customer example, and I mean, you can see here we've got some, yeah, okay, so there's some nice imagery. It's a nice layout. It certainly adds some visual pleasure to the solution. But I think when our customers really get to grips with this and they start putting their own images on, as I said, I have seen one of our customers and what they've done with it, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So so this is really just the starting point. But obviously, when you go into any of the guidebooks, you know, you should recognize the content. So if you're using things like monitor your organization, discover insights, once you get into the topics, you know, it should be very familiar content. But yeah, so there's a really nice, you know, basically new design to our guidebook. Now, for those of you who have been logging in during preview and have been logging in since GA, general availability at the weekend, you will have noticed the icons have changed slightly. So, I mean, this is, I'm sure we've done this just to keep people like me on my toes. But you know, you've got guidebooks, you've got analyses. Of course, if you can't remember what the icons are, then you can expand the menu and you can see then you explore for binoculars and you captures image, which is now matches the kind of the camera one which you use to take the captures in the first place. You've got your kind of your playbooks to manage your planning, etc. And you know, you might not all see all of these icons, but you know, so there's some icon changes there for you to all get to grips with. In terms of the metric picker, so if I show you what that looks like, I'm going to do that by going into Explore. And I'm going to click on the metric picker and I'm going to drill into all of the available metrics. And you'll see the two panel design that Stephen was talking about in his slides. So now you can see down the left-hand side, we have our kind of categories. And then you have a layout of the metrics on the right-hand side. The nice thing about this is that, you know, not only do you have then a description of each of the metrics without having to, you know, click and highlight the question mark, but you've also got access to the more info. And also where you've got additional options, like for some of the parameterization, so things like headcount ratio, you've got the ability to filter and to select values right there and then. So if, for example, I pick the resignation rate, rather than having, you know, a separate resignation rate trailing 12-month metric, all of that is accessible now from within this metric. So if I wanted to get a 6-month trailing resignation rate metric and then just apply that to my visual, I can do that right there and then. So so a lot of thought's gone into how we make that metric picker more friendly and easier to use for all users across the Visier universe. Yeah, okay, so what else was I going to show you? I was going to show you the mobile experience. So the best way for me to show you that is to basically just resize my browser. And then you can see that, you know, I've got different options to get to the various windows. I can resize this, and you know, if I go into, for example, the new guidebook capability, shrink that down to the size of my phone, you know, I've got access to the guidebooks, and you know, I mean, this is great because, you know, I mean, we have had mobile capabilities before, but it's been all through the iOS app, and now, you know, regardless of the form factor, the screen will reshape, resize, and you know, depending on the options on the size of the device that you're using. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to kind of just pop into is the ability to do searches. So for example, if I wanted to search directly for an employee ID, I can just type in the employee ID, and I'll get a list of the employees that match that particular number. And then of course, you know, the other enhancements we've seen recently on the employee search allows me to then, you know, directly view the career path, view the history, add to the compare, you know, directly from within that search window. So so that's a great addition, being able to search directly for your employees by ID number. Just going to pop back into Explore, because as has been common amongst the last couple of releases, we've been adding in some new visual types. We've been making them easier to find and select. So you'll now see, for example, things like the collaboration circle if you're a workplace dynamics user, but you'll also see the pipeline flow visual, which is one of my favorite talent acquisition visualizations, which allows you to see, for example, in this, you know, the flow of applicants through your recruitment process, and you know, so each of these lines represents an employee. So previously, if you were trying to get to this, you would have had to gone through the applicant pipeline and click on the flow link on the right hand side. But now we've got that directly accessible from the chart / context picker within Explore. I'm just going to go back to my default setting. A couple of things I wanted to show you around the metric lineage tool enhancements. So I think quite a few people will have probably seen this before, but if I just select something like employee exit count for December 2022, if I can highlight a particular part of the visual, or I can just click on this metric lineage piece at the bottom. And as I go into that, this is a way, and clearly not all of your users are going to have access to this, but this is a great way of really validating the information that you're seeing within Visier. And this helps gain trust in the data, trust in the information that you're presenting. And this is a way of getting from the front end of Visier all the way back to the source file. So you can see, you know, the sources of data. If there are like leaf nodes, or if there are, you know, for example, I've looked at exit counts, and clearly we have a number of different exits that have been highlighted here. So I can see things like termination, resignations. I can even see, for example, my system termination counts. So if you wanted to kind of confirm, you know, the data that's making up the visuals, you can do that. You've also got access to the calculation details, which is basically all of the descriptions that are sitting behind each of the metrics. So you've got easy access to that. Plus you can see the metrics that are being used in a particular metric. So you can see the employee exit count, and I can see other related metrics, and I can see the dependency tree, for example. So it gives me a bit more system information of, you know, that is being used in this particular insight that I'm viewing. One other thing I was just going to show you here, actually, if I just return to my headcount, because I want to pull up some active employees and go back into the metric lineage. For any of the employees that are displayed, you can see I've got a link to the history. So you can see, for example, so if I want to drill into Luther and I want to see Luther's history, It's just a nice way, again, of being able to get directly from the front end, understand the data that sits behind it, but then drill into the underlying history for each of the people that are listed. So lots of enhancements to that metric lineage feature. And that was the end of my list, Stephen. So I'll hand back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, a lot of enhancements to improve that overall user experience for the winter release. So that was it for the platform enhancements. Now we're over to the last section, all of our hot new features as part of winter. So first one I wanted to dive into was exception alert. So this is a new feature that lets you compare metrics over time, where you can automatically detect and flag any anomalies within the data, so you can take any necessary action straight away. So you're able to configure these alerts based on the trend direction. You can take seasonality into account, and you can also color code flags based on different thresholds. So this is a really powerful feature. It lets you know right away what's happening, the severity of it, and whether there's any proactive action that's needed. On the right here, you can see a pretty good example. So we've got the exception alert here, and it's been flagged for October. If we go into it, you can see that there's been the most significant drop from September to October in the employee ratio of women across the last year. So straight away, you know the significance of the visual, and you can understand straight away if there's anything that needs to be done to take action. So again, really powerful feature, saves you a lot of time having to dig through and sift through the data to find any significance. Now, the next feature I'm covering is work location analysis. So for this feature, we've added a new workplace type property where you can flag employees as either being remote, hybrid, office, or other workplace type setting. And this allows you to start digging into different workplace types to understand how that's actually impacting employee turnover, productivity, engagement, and more. So it's a simple update, but it provides a lot of valuable insight to help improve your remote and hybrid work initiatives. So example is being able to compare what that turnover rate is between remote versus hybrid versus office staff, as well as looking at things such as compensation to see that you're compensating your employees fairly, comparing across different workplace types. The next feature I'm covering is location check-in. So this is a standalone bundle that can be purchased separately, and this really ties in well to the previous workplace location feature that we've got. So location check-in allows you to track how often and when your workers are coming into the office, as well as monitor occupancy for your office space and your facilities. So this feature allows you to load and analyze your workplace check-in data, whether that's badge scans, access card, or network logins, so you can see how your workforce plan is tracking. It's a really powerful capability. Gives you better understanding of how hybrid and remote work is really impacting performance and productivity across your business, and ensures that your workforce plan that's in place is actually being adhered to. Were you demoing this, Mike?
No, the workplace type I'll do, but I'll do it at the end.
Okay. I'll run through the next one then. So the next one is also another standalone bundle, and this is long-term project assignment. So this is really suited for organizations that operate on a project or assignment basis. So professional services firms or consultants where you're working on time-bound projects. You're working on a few different projects at a time and then redeploy to other projects once that project's been completed. So again, it's a standalone bundle, and it's really focused on assessing and analyzing the utilization of employees within these different projects, as well as understanding the team composition to help improve diversity. So it measures overall utilization by understanding how your employees are actually being used, how much downtime there is occurring between projects to really help track efficiency and productivity. And then from there, you can understand utilization by tenure as well as by top performers as well. And another great use case of this is understanding the diversity of your project teams, as well as analyzing project leaders to understand which ones are actually building diverse project teams and how these teams are impacting project results, helping to inform decisions around how you want to be assembling project teams in the future. And lastly, we've got standardized occupations for Visier benchmark. So for this release, we've added Visier's standardized occupations as a dimension for our exit metrics. So you're now able to drill down to select the exact profession that you want and compare various professions within your organization. Alrighty, now I'm going to pass it back over to Mike before we just summarize and go to any other questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, so this is a short demo. So I'm going to cover kind of two of those areas. I mean, if other areas that Stephen covered, like the project assignments, the location check-ins, if those are of interest, then please reach out to us afterwards, and we'll make sure that your project team or sales team will be in touch to talk to you about them in a bit more detail. So this is, again, just a bit of a taster. So I'm where we left off, really, and I just wanted to show you the ability to to pull in things like that workplace type dimension. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking that a lot of organizations that are not Visier customers, they're choosing to build a lot of this themselves. They will have started to have to think about, well, how do I need to change my data model? What other elements do I need to add? I need to build this in, and then I need to visualize it, etc. And as Visier customers, we've done all that work for you. So we stay current, we keep you up to date. And here I'm just seeing a breakdown of headcount by workplace type. But if I wanted to see a trend, if I wanted to see how that's changing over time, I'll take my overall out so I can see my headcount of remote workers versus office workers versus hybrid. And then you can start applying some interesting lenses to this. So if I just go back to my employee exit count, I can start to look at, well, which of my workplace type employees are leaving the business. Is it my hybrid workers? Is it the ones that are coming back into the office, etc.? So obviously you can apply lots of different metrics to that new dimension. So that was one thing I wanted to cover. The other thing I wanted to just kind of pull up was the benchmark information. So I mean, a lot of you are, I'm sure, benchmark customers. So if I pull up my exit benchmark overall trend, and then I want to look at this by, if I just show all attributes, I will be able to find my Visier occupation. And actually, I'll show this as a breakdown. So I'm not sure how many people are using the new Visier standardized occupations and standardized jobs. I mean, we had a relationship with, and we used the MZ information for a while. But I think lots of you know that we acquired the assets of a company called Boosters back in September. And they basically offer a job standardization and skills intelligence engine. And what we do is we run your jobs and through the algorithm that's now embedded within Visier, and out pops Visier standardized occupations and Visier standardized jobs, and this is really the first piece of a kind of standardized jobs skills process. And you can see here that now I'm looking at my Visier occupations benchmarks. So if I wanted to drill down, for example, into transportation and storage, and I want to then drill into my warehouses, and then I can start to see some of the jobs and the Visier benchmarked exit rates for those jobs, and you could then start to compare yourselves and your own jobs and standardized jobs against some of those benchmark values. So a really powerful addition to our benchmark capabilities. So that was it. Thank you, and I'll hand back over to Stephen.
Thank you, Mike. Just gonna do a quick summary, and then we can head over to any other questions that you might have. So again, this winter release was packed with a lot of key features. Firstly, with the collaboration insights, really being able to enhance and improve productivity and collaboration and that effectiveness throughout your workforce. We've got the new guidebook experience, as well as a lot of other enhancements as part of winter release that's really helping to improve the overall user experience. The exception alerts, as well as the collaboration insights, really helps to save time and surface potential risks early so they can be mitigated. And we've had quite a few of the different features around the remote and hybrid work to really understand the effectiveness of those work plans and helping to improve and maximize performance. Now, we've had quite a few questions in the chat. We can open it up now for any other questions before we wrap it up.
Yeah, there's a question from Darcy about, are we able to see the results of how you aligned our jobs? And yes, there's basically an analysis that's delivered that shows you, I'm trying to think of the right word, but the accuracy of the matching. And in the studio, back end, you've got the ability to adjust those mappings.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah, there was a question about the workplace type. I think a couple of questions. We've got as with a lot of the Visier content, we've got the placeholders for remote, hybrid, office-based workers, but it's still going to be your responsibility to collect that data, to create that data, attach it to your employee records, probably in your core HR system or other file, and then load it into Visier. Yes, that's correct, Emily. The standardized occupations, we still have MZ capabilities, and if you have a relationship with MZ, we're still taking that data and loading that data, but the Visier standardized occupations and Visier standardized jobs, that's all Visier own technology and capability. Yeah, thanks, Wayne.
I think we've covered all of the questions. Last call for any questions before we wrap it up. All right, I think we can finish it off here. Well, appreciate everyone for joining in today. Hope everyone has a good rest of the day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.